Hey, church family. So I've been studying through the book of James and came across something in my devotion this morning that was very, very interesting that I wanted to share with you today. In James chapter 1, when we get into verse 22, it says, "But be doers of the word and not hearers only, deceiving yourselves. For if anyone is a hearer of the word and not a doer, he is like a man observing his natural face in a mirror. For he observes himself, goes away, and immediately forgets what kind of man he was." Those are condemning words for us. If all we do is just take the word of God in and we don't do anything with it, in essence, if we don't allow it to change us, or it doesn't spark some kind of change in some sort of outward movement of the word of God in our lives, being doers of the word, not just hearers only. If we get up and act on it, put it into application in our lives, then we're like a person who looked in the mirror and then turned around and forgot what he was looking at. And that's very, very true in this word today. And it goes on to say in verse 25, "But he who looks into the perfect law of liberty and continues in it, and is not a forgetful hearer, but a doer of the work, this one will be blessed in everything he does. If anyone among you thinks he is religious and does not bridle his tongue, but deceives his own heart, then his religion is useless. Pure and undefiled religion before God and the Father is this: visit orphans, widows in their trouble, and keep oneself unspotted from the world." That's what we're called to do. We're called to be different. We're called to be separated from the world. But how do we do that? How do we know how to do that? By taking what we read in the Bible and putting it into application. Not just, as my old pastor used to say, sit, soak, and sour with the word, but to actually pick it up and make it a part of who you are. Be doers of the word. Take what God has put in the book and express it out to the world. Make it an outward witness to what we do. That's how people know who we are as Christians. We're outwardly working in the world and doing what God has taught us to do and making a difference in the world for his sake, not for our sake, not for our own vain glory, but for his sake, for his glory. And I love this. Keep oneself unspotted from the world. Now that's hard to do, but that's what we call holiness. It's standing above what the world is. I challenged our youth group this week. When we look at Romans chapter 12, verses 1 and 2, and I'm going to look that up real quick because I want to share that with you, and I don't want to, sometimes I have a tendency to get words backwards and things like that, so I want to read it. "I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that you present your bodies as a living sacrifice, wholly acceptable to God, which is your reasonable service. And do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what is good and acceptable and perfect will of God." What that means is, don't just be the kind of person who says, "Oh, well, that's wicked, that's evil, I'm going to stay away from that." That's not enough. That's not God's standard. God's standard is to do what is holy and pleasing. So stay away from evil and wicked. That's here, okay? But being holy and pleasing to God, doing things that are holy and pleasing to God, that's way up here. And you can't even see where that is because the screen doesn't go that high. It's way up here. We are to be separated from the world, different from what the world sees on a normal basis, because he has called us out, not just to be good, but to do what is holy and pleasing to God, to fill our lives with those blessings, and God will bless us tremendously. Love you, church family. See you very soon.